Chapter 351 to 352. Location, outside Amigakure, on the side of the second unit led by the Reikage. Time, 2 minutes before Kuroto and Shursui heard the launch of signal flare. After breaking the neck of a Kumo Umbu, Hirako, whose entire body was covered in bandages, revealed a chiseled grin as the three tomo in his Sharingan spun, giving everyone standing before him an indescribable sense of weirdness. While holding the corpse of the now-dead Umbu by the neck, Hirako slowly walked towards the raid team of Kumo and spoke in a mocking tone, "TSK, is the Reikage in such a hurry to die?" Reikage was obviously flaring and impatient by now, and he was more annoyed at Hirako's mocking words. "Damn you Hirako, answer my question, where are Yujito and Mabui?" Plop. Hirako then threw the corpse of this Kumo Umbu to the opposite side, which landed at the feet of Reikage, and chuckled, "Ha ha ha ha. Don't know and don't care, what I care about is the person standing before me. It seems that I will soon be getting a high-level corpse to experiment upon, the corpse of the Reikage himself." When the group of Kumo shinobi following Reikage heard Hirako's words, each of them cursed him, but they did not dare to step forward. The previous death of the Kumo Umbu was a clear signal that Hirako is too dangerous to be taken lightly. Undoubtedly, Hirako's mastery over the 5 Kekii Genkai he has absorbed has become extremely well in the past few months that he spent in continuous fighting while doing all sorts of missions. So, there is an obvious increase in his strength. With the increase in his strength, there is a natural increase in his self-confidence, which is different from his previous arrogance, and this self-confidence is clearly reflected in the aura that surrounds him. Hirako's aura was extremely fierce, like a beast itself, so much so that even the Jinchuriki of Hachibi, Killer Bee, was completely different from his usual self, which is very rare. She walked closer to Reikage and whispered in a low voice, "Reikage-sama, it appears that Akatsuki organization is waiting for us. It's still a while before the start of the raid. Should we fire the signal flare?" Reikage was now leaking his killing intent, glared at Hirako and his 3 subordinates and said, "Of course, the Akatsuki organization is prepared. The enemy is right in front of us, there is no point in waiting for any longer, fire the signal flare." She nodded, and immediately took out the signal flare and fired it. Shot, whistle. Bang. At the very next moment, Reikage said to B, Darui, and she, "Lead everyone inside Amigakure, and search for Yujito and Mabui. I will join you all after I deal with this Konoha defector and his pesky subordinates." Killer Bee nodded, "You got it bro," then looked at Darui and she and said, "Let's start." With B's order, Darui and she, as well as the other Jonin and Umbu nodded, rushed towards Amigakure. Hirako grinned while looking at the Kumo ninjas getting past him. He did not really care about them, they can go wherever they want, his current target is the Reikage. Although it would be nice if only the Jinchuriki of Hachibi goes further ahead as ordered by Pain-sama. Mused Hirako, then said to his 3 subordinates, "Ichi, Ni, San, stop as many as you can." San nodded and whistled, and immediately afterward, a bird chimera suddenly flew towards the passing group at an extremely fast speed. As soon as it reached near them, the bird fired feathers towards the Kumo shinobi. Ichi also nodded and rushed towards Darui, while Ni nodded and rushed towards she. Hirako smirked, and following his smirk, several explosions occurred all over the battlefield. Since most of the shinobi were Jonin class, therefore, they easily dodged the explosions and rushed forward. At the same time, suddenly the sound of lightning flickering sounded as the Reikage, whose entire body was covered in Raitun chakra mode, appeared in front of Hirako in a flash. Elbow. As soon as he flashed before Hirako, Reikage thrust his elbow that was covered in lightning at Hirako with extreme force. The Reikage's elbow that also had golden braces on him hit Hirako. But the expected blood and flesh bursting did not appear, nor was there any contact with flesh. This was unexpected, and Reikage's figure stagnated, who turned his head back only to find a fading image. At the same time, Hirako's figure appeared where Reikage stood a few seconds ago. He had a condescending smile on his face which widened ever so slightly as he worded, "The speed is good, but insight? Not so much." Reikage's already annoyed face became more annoyed. Jintun Kekii Genkai. Because there is no stable inheritance of this specific Kekii Genkai in any shinobi clan, hence, there is no method to determine when and who will awaken it, as it can appear just about in anyone for that matter, so even the well-informed and experienced Reikage has only ever heard of this Kekii Genkai, never really fought against someone with it. Therefore, even he was slightly amazed by this Kekii Genkai. Jintun. Yes, this Kekii Genkai makes me the fastest shinobi alive. You are no longer the one to hold the title of the fastest shinobi, Reikage. Hirako said. Darui, who was cutting down the chimera snakes rushing towards him, was also surprised by Hirako's speed. While she who was trying to put Ni as well as her bests in a genjutsu thought to himself, I have never seen someone match the speed of Reikage-sama. Is it really possible that this rogue nin can match Reikage-sama's speed? Meanwhile, Hirako continued, your right-ton chakra mode sure makes your speed extremely fast, but unfortunately you do not have Sharingan as I do. Without the extreme insight of Sharingan, will your ordinary eyes be able to catch my figure in a battle of speed, huh Reikage? Reikage snorted, arrogant, it seems that I must teach you that anyone who bears the name of a Kage of a village is not an ordinary individual that you make him up to be. Immediately after speaking so, the intensity of lightning covering his body became more violent, and his hair also rose up. At this moment, his chakra was continuously flaring up, rivaling to the level of a bijou. ZZ. Whoosh. The very next instant Reikage appeared at Hirako's back and raised his hand to perform a backhanded horizontal chop against Hirako, Reigyaku Suehei. The speed of Reikage this time was so fast that his figure appeared at the back of Hirako even before the sound. Reikage's sudden increase in speed to such a degree seems to be somewhat unexpected by Hirako, and when this horizontal chop hit Hirako, Reikage clearly felt the sensations of bones breaking before Hirako was sent flying to the far end of the battlefield. Boom. Because of the sensation that Reikage felt, he was sure that Hirako was now dead, and therefore did not bother to confirm. There is hardly any individual who can stay alive after his backbone is broken. After all, no one has ever survived against Reigyaku Suehei before. After dealing with Hirako, Reikage turned towards 3 cartoons called Ichi, Ni, Sen who were giving Darui, Shi, and Moroi a hard time, which was rather surprising considering all 3 of them are jonins. Reikage decided that he will finish them himself as they don't have time to deal with them. More inner members of Akatsuki are yet to be dealt with, especially Pain with the Rinnegan, so Reikage rushed towards Ichi, Ni, Sen to finish the 3 and their pets at once. But just as Reikage took the first step, he suddenly came to a halt as he felt a stinging pain from his back. At the very next moment, he suddenly heard a low whisper from behind, where do you think you are going? If you think that I would die so easily with such weak attacks, then you are sorely mistaken Reikage. While still covered in lightning, Reikage immediately turned around and punched Hirako who had unknowingly sneaked up to him. Hirako easily dodged that punch with a backflip. Having distanced himself from Hirako, Reikage checked his back waist and found that although the wound is not large, for some reason the bleeding was not stopping, even the color of blood that came out was not red but somewhat blackish, showing the signs of poisoning. When Hirako attacked him, he made sure to inject poison into Reikage. With a frown, Reikage took out a vial of antidote that works against most of the known poisons and took out. Hirako did not stop. The poison's purpose was not to kill Reikage, its purpose is to damage the auxiliary senses. And since the poison is newly created by none other than Sasori himself, it is obvious that any conventional antidote will not work. At the same time, Hirako was also catching up his breath. His back was a little deformed because of the attack from Reikage, which showed that Reikage's attack had worked, but unfortunately, it didn't work as it was intended to. There was physical injury, but that physical soon returned to normal as if there was no injury at all. Cough, vomit cough. After vomiting out the blood stuck in his chest, Hirako wiped the corner of his mouth, the back of his left hand, and said, perfect, you are the perfect specimen for the research I am conducting. Now I am more interested in obtaining your corpse Reikage. After having completely drunk the antidote, Reikage threw away the vial, said, you are the first one ever to have been able to survive my attack, at the same time you are also the first one to have been able to injure me through the right-ton chakra mode. After I kill you, I will remember your name until the day I die. Hirako chuckled, don't sweat it Reikage, today is the day you die. After a pause here, Hirako continued, as for the matter of killing me, don't even dream of it. An ant, like you, will never be able to kill me, a perfect shinobi. As the two sides drew out their entire chakra, even the surroundings trembled, lightning raged, and the very next instant, under the still falling rain, 2 figures collided against one another. Their speed so impossibly fast that keeping track of their continuously changing positions became an impossible task. Wherever the 2 figures went, everything ended up being broken and collapsed, but the 2 figures, one with a blue chakra and the other with gray, did not care and continued their speed match. And when it comes to speed, Hirako's was undoubtedly faster than the Reikage. However, Reikage's right-ton chakra mode did not just boost his speed, it also increased his physical strength, overall defensive power, as well as his physical stamina. Unfortunately, his opponent this time is Hirako, who can not only use Jinton but also use Koton for strength, Sharingan for high insight, coupled with his ability to absorb chakra through Meiton, and immunity to lightning attacks because of Ranton. Reikage was unable to gain any advantage in the battle. So at this end, the battle between Reikage and his guards versus Hirako and his guards broke out in full swing, while a team of shinobi led by Killer Bee tried to rush towards the Pain Tower in Amigakure. Location, outside Amigakure, on the side of the first unit led by the Hokage. Time, 1 minute 40 seconds before Kuroto and Shursui heard the launch of signal flare. Shot. Whistle. Bang. Looking at the signal flare, Akimichi Choza said, Hokage-sama, the raid on the second unit's end has started before the agreed time. Nara Shikaku said, something must have happened on their end. Sandame nodded, sure enough, the Akatsuki is already waiting for us. After speaking so, he looked in the direction of the third unit, the unit that is led by Kazekage. There is still no signal flare from the third unit, are they waiting for the agreed time? Or has something gone wrong on their end? After weighing it out a little, Sandame ordered the Umbu behind him, launch the signal flare, the first unit is starting the attack. Yes, Hokage-sama. The Umbu nodded and took out the flare. But before he could fire it, suddenly a whirl appeared at the back of this Umbu and dragged him into the distorted whirl. What? Enemy attack. Be careful everyone. Hearing the sudden exclamation of the Umbu, everyone looked at him and was instantly alerted. Sandame had the fastest reaction, and he immediately shot several shuriken at the masked man, but for some reason, the shuriken all phased through the masked man. Nara Shikaku instantly weaved hand signs only to see that the masked man did not have any shadow, no shadow. How is that possible? Sandame stared at the masked man who was now at the center of the group and said, you are? Yes, now I recall, you are the one who tried to kidnap Uzumaki Naruto. Because of the ability of the masked man to phase through things as well his spacetime ninjutsu that does not require any seals, summoning, or markings, Sandame remembered the details of the masked man when Team 11 made their report about him. Questioned by Sandame, the masked man pointed at himself then immediately shook his head frantically, me? No. I am Tobi, I did not try to kidnap Uzumaki Naruto, I tried to use Uzumaki Naruto to kill Uchiha Shursui. But unfortunately, that plan failed, but anyway, Hokage-sama, you are too old, are you sure that you should be moving around here, instead of staying in Konoha, taking care of your old bones? Sandame frowned at the manner of Tobi's speaking, it was as if the other party was not taking him seriously at all. Intrigued, Sandame said with a mild smile, if I don't get rid of ambitionists like the Akatsukis hidden in the dark, how can this old man ever retire with a peace of mind? Suddenly Tobi's tone became gloomy and indifferent and he said, your era has long since passed away, no matter how you try, you will never be able to stop the change. Does the change you speak of mean repeated attacks on Konoha and killing and kidnapping its civilians? Sandame's expression suddenly became serious and he declared, because if that's the case, then as the Hokage of Konoha, I can never allow people like to continue to exist and harm the peace of my village. Tobi shrugged, don't look at me so seriously, I'll bush, or not. And as for the matter of dealing with us, you won't be able to do anything, after all, Hokages are all pretty useless people. Hearing Tobi's words, the Umbu all retorted, but neither of them dared to rush forward. Sandame bit his finger, then weaved hand signs, and shouted. Ninpu, Kuchios, Monkey God King, Enma. Poof. With a cloud of white smoke, the Monkey God King Enma appeared on the battlefield. Enma looked at the surroundings and noticed a whole lot of Umbu surrounding the masked and asked, Saratobi, is the kid with the one-eyed, spiral mask the enemy? Sandame nodded with a solemn expression and said, yes, the person refers to himself as Tobi, he has some kind of strange spacetime jutsu, it's kind of difficult to deal with him. What has happened to the shinobi world recently? One after another, all kinds of monsters are emerging again and again. With a helpless mutter, Enma transformed into the adamantine staff which was then held by Hokage. On the other side, Tobi looked at the Monkey King Enma that transformed into the adamantine staff, then suddenly clapped his hands, wow, that was so nice, I also want a similar monkey. A monkey that can transform into a walking stick, will be really helpful in old age. Hiruzen was annoyed because of Tobi's continuous banter, but Tobi did not care and kept talking, but I don't have one. That's a bit of trouble, aha, I have an idea, although, I don't have a monkey, I do have a cat. I can ask the cat if she can transform into a walking stick. And the very next moment, the space around Tobi distorted as a figure appeared out of it. This figure was none other than Niyujito, but at this moment, the color of her eyes was lost. Seeing the appearance of Niyujito, everyone backed off a step, no shit, the other part is a Jinchuriki, you have to be careful against her. Tobi did not care, and spoke in excitement, look, look, her name is Niyujito, she is the new cat that my senpai asked me to take care of, isn't he nice? By the way, Nico-chan, can you also transform into a walking stick like that old man's monkey over there? But there was no response from Niyujito. Toby looked disheartened at the feeling of being ignored, then suddenly perked up and said, okay, if you cannot transform into a walking stick, can you transform into something else? This time, Toby's call was heard, as suddenly 2 flaming blue tails sprouted out from Niyujito's, and within a few moments an extremely large, blue monster cat appeared next to Toby with a loud roar. Oh ho, that's so awesome. I like this cat more than that monkey. Now then, shall we start? Toby said as he got ready for the battle. Contrary to Toby's nonchalant and carefree appearance, every other person on the battlefield had sweat flowing down their temples. That is Niyujito. Is she being controlled by the enemy? What should we do? Said one of the Umbu. Even Sandame had to now take this battle more seriously than he expected initially, and there is still no guarantee that it will be a win or not. I don't know how he is controlling Nibi's Jinchuriki, but this move of his was too cunning. If we kill Niyujito here, then a dispute with Reikage will arise, otherwise, our own men will die. Even the Bijou is liberated in the complete form. This battle just became more difficult than I anticipated. Thought Sandame, then to the tree shinobi standing around him, Inoichi, Shikaku, Choza, I will leave the Nibi and its Jinchuriki to 3 of you, while I will take care of this Toby. Yes, Hokage-sama. Yamanaka Inoichi, Nara Shikaku, and Akimichi Choza nodded and took their Inoshikacho formation. Toby said, Era, you think that's the end of it all? But no. We have more. With Toby's words, suddenly a beast with snakeskin, bullhead, and scorpion tail appeared out of the ground. As soon as it appeared, it ate the shinobi from under whom he came out. The very next moment, an extremely fast-flying chimera beast, with a griffin shape, flew down from the sky, and soon afterward, one after another chimera beasts kept appearing surrounding the entire Kyumo unit. What? Arg, my leg. Ah, get away from me, you beast. Ha ha ha. Konoha shinobi, meet the new pets of Akatsuki. Now kill them all. Toby said with a loud chuckle. Looking at the scene before him, now Sandame was a little panicked and can't help but think, was this raid really a good idea? Toby and Niyujito, being controlled, along with several chimera beasts versus Hokage and Inoshikacho Patriarch, along with several other jonin. Location, outside Amage Cure, on the side of the 3rd unit led by the Kazekage. Time, 5 minutes before Kuroto and Shui heard the launch of signal flare. Suetun, Dabakufu no Jutsu. Water release, great waterfall technique. With a sudden burst, an overwhelmingly large water vortex suddenly rushed towards the Suna unit, galloping towards the predetermined position to launch the raid on Akatsuki organization. Kazekage Raza, who was at the forefront of the unit, immediately stopped and slammed his hand on the ground, immediately after which a huge wall of golden sand, protecting the entire unit, erected in front of him. After the vortex of water stopped, gold sand moved away and Kazekage finally got a clear view of the attackers. He was extremely surprised by the identities of the other parties, and questioned, what are you Kirinin doing here? The Tri-Alliance of Konoha, Kyumo, and Suna is working here in a joint raid. Does Kirigakure intends to declare a war on all 3 villages at once? Suikazan Fuguki clutched the hilt of the great sword Samahata and said, don't ask me, we are only here because we were hired by Amage Cure to resist foreign aggression, so we hope that Kazekage Dano gives up on their plans to take over Amage Cure, to avoid further conflict. Foreign aggression? Raza sneered, then continued, Hanzo, the leader of Amage Cure, has long been dead. Amage Cure is taken over by Akatsuki organization. We are here to eliminate Akatsuki organization, a group of rogue nin from shinobi villages. Move aside, give up this task, and move aside. If you do, I will look over this matter and not pursue it. Fuguki was too lazy to argue or reason with Kazekage. He drew out Samahata and said, I don't know anything about Akatsuki organization or whatever, I only the mission assigned to me. If Kazekage Dano does not intend to back off, we can only kill you here and now. Failing to complete a mission is unforgivable in Kirigakure. Baki, who was standing behind Kazekage, said angrily, pay attention to who you are speaking to. Fuguki snorted coldly, yeah, aren't I talking to the Kazekage who is just a dog of Konoha's Hokage? Kazekage was not angered by Fuguki's words. He looked at Pakura and the 2 elders, as well as the other shinobi following, and said, Chiyoba, you will lead the rest of the team to move ahead. I will deal with the Kiri shinobi personally, and then I will follow ahead. Elder Chiyo nodded. Pakura's Shukaten is weak against water, while puppet users don't have an effective way to deal with Rokubi Jinchuriki, so Kazekage himself had to stay behind to hold off these 4 Kirigakure shinobi. The upcoming raid is imminent, and time is constantly running out. It is unwise for the entire 3rd unit to fight Kiri shinobi, therefore, Elder Chiyo led the unit to Amigakure. Kirigakure no Jutsu. Hiding in mist technique. Before casting Kirigakure no Jutsu, Fuguki noticed that most of these shinobi intend to go ahead while Kazekage himself is staying behind, and he ordered, Kisame, Zabuza hold off the Suna Umbu commander and her subordinates, I, and Utakata are enough to kill the Kazekage. Zabuza and Kisame nodded and chased after the Umbu commander of Suna. Utakata on the other hand did not say much, he just stared at the opposite Kazekage and for the order from Fuguki. On the other side, the Suna team that was rushing towards Amigakure noticed that 2 people were still following them. Just as Chiyo was considering the options of how to deal with these 2, Pakura said, Chiyo-basama, please go ahead, I will stay behind and deal with these 2. There was no better candidate, Chiyo had no other choice but to know, alright, but they all specialize in Suetun, be careful. After a pause, Elder Chiyo continued, Maki, you 2 stay behind. Yes, Chiyo-basama. Maki nodded and stayed together with Pakura. Well, looks like it's going to be sensei and disciple now, make sure to keep up with me Maki. Pakura said to Maki and then hurried forward to greet Zabuza and Kisame. Maki said with a pout, don't treat me like I am some kid, I am already 17. Pakura chuckled, are you sure you have grown up? Your chest is still so small. Maki flustered, that's unfair. What does my chest size have to do with my age? And besides, so what if they are small? At least. Pakura raised an eye, at least what? Maki turned her head to the side and whispered in a very low voice, nothing. Pakura smiled at Maki's response then said with a serious expression, alright, jokes aside, our enemy this time is no ordinary, both Momochi Zabuza and Hashige Kisame are extremely strong opponents, be careful. Yes. Maki nodded and got ready for the battle with a roll of cloth at her side. After 2 consecutive divisions of troops, the combat power of Suna was severely weakened, 3 high-level combat personnel were already left behind, but Chiyo, Ebizo, and Baki did not stop. This raid involves 3 villages, so Suna too has to be part of the main raid, else the village would its dignity. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, 2 figures jumped from the sky and landed before the Suna unit being led by Chiyo and Ebizo. Both of them were wearing Akatsuki's traditional turtleneck black cloak with red cloud prints. One of them had red hair and quite a young body, indicating that he was still quite young, while the other had quite a tall body with green pupilless eyes. These 2 were none other than Sasori of the Red Sand and Kakuzu, missing Nin of Takigakure. Taking a glance at the opposite Sasori, Chiyo thought, he hasn't aged at all, he looks just like he did back then. After thinking so, Chiyo looked at the flying beasts hovering above them. She was surprised to find that chimera beasts had extremely bizarre shapes and sizes but for some reason, their speed was extremely fast, and she also noticed that these flying beasts were descending down. Are those things also going to fight us? Chiyo ordered, everyone spread out, don't gather together, disperse, quickly. The Suna shinobis partaking in this battle are obviously all elites, and it did not take them seconds to follow Chiyo's orders, they immediately took on a defensive formation against Sasori and Kakuzu, as well as those chimera beasts. Chiyo then looked back at Sasori. The only reason she and Ebizo joined this raid is because of Sasori. Sasori is the killer of Sandame Kazekage, so it is Chiyo's responsibility to put Sasori's life to an end for what he has done, for treading the wrong path. Sasori stood akimbo and said, Chiyo-basama, you shouldn't be here. Chiyo said sadly, perhaps, I shouldn't have taught you puppetry. Sasori said, what's ring Chiyo-basama? You have really gotten older, if it was a few years ago you would have never shown such a weak expression, isn't that right, Ebizo-jisama? Sasori, Ebizo worded out ever so slightly. Chiyo did not wait for Ebizo to speak anything, and said, seeing what you have become, I will inevitably feel sad. After a pause, Chiyo continued, I was the one to teach you puppetry. I will be the one to end it. Sasori said indifferently, but can you? I have already surpassed you long ago when it comes to puppetry. I am the strongest and the greatest there is in the entire shinobi world. Chiyo took out a string tied with multiple kunai then connected it with chakra thread and said, you have taken the forbidden path. After speaking this sentence Chiyo's eyes dimmed because she too has taken the forbidden path, created the Kenjutsu, Kisho Tensei, to bring her son and daughter-in-law back to life. Old hag, eternity is the ultimate meaning of puppetry. Those who stick to bottom line, morals, standards will never be able to achieve eternity. The path I have chosen is the right one. Chiyo no longer talked, it was pointless to do so. All her life she has been dishonest with her grandchild, she did not speak to him when there was the need to, so what was the point in doing so now? Chiyo used the chakra threads she has attacked kunais and fired them towards Sasori and Kakuzu. Kakuzu stomped his leg on the ground, Doton, Doria Hiki. Instantly a stone wall appeared out of the ground, blocking the dozen or so kunai. Sasori smirked, then waved his hands. Under Sasori's command, the chimera beasts rushed towards all the other Suna shinobi, except for Chiyo. Sasori then looked at Kakuzu and said, "Do not interfere in my fight with her, you go and deal with the geezer and others. I will be the one to end her life." Kakuzu nodded and rushed towards Ebizo and Baki. The very next moment, Sasori and Chiyo both took out a scroll and summoned their puppet. Henceforth, a battle between the two puppet masters of different generations broke out. Ebizo looked at the chimera beasts coming towards them and then said, "Baki. You, and I will battle Kakuzu. Sister. Sasori is all yours, while the rest will deal with those incoming chimera beasts." Baki nodded, "Yes, Ebizo-jisama." Same for the other Suna shinobi, "Yes, Ebizo-jisama." On the side of the third unit, Kazekage vs Fuguki and Utakata, Pakura and Maki vs Kisame and Zabuza, Ebizo and Baki vs Kakuzu, the Suna Ambu and Jonin vs Chimera Beasts, and finally Chiyo vs Sasori. Inside Amage Cure, after the start of the raid. Having detected that battle has broken out on several fronts, Kuroto and Shursui left the sewers. Since the battles have already started, so waiting any longer for information from Shinichi is meaningless now. Instead of just staying hidden within the sewers, it is better to move to the tall buildings, as from there monitoring the situation of the entire Amage Cure will become much easier compared to what it is now. After leaving the sewer, when the two of them came to the ground level of Amage Cure, Kuroto and Shursui noticed that not even a single soul can be seen on the roads or streets, or either of the buildings, meaning that they have already been evacuated before the war between Tri-Alliance and Akatsuki breaks out. As for where the people of Amage Cure have been evacuated, perhaps only the members of the Akatsuki organization know this. Well, at least neither side will have to be restrained because of civilian security. Kuroto muttered to himself as he was now standing on top of a tall tower, giving him a pretty good view of the Amage Cure. As for the problem of being found out, well, let's just say that it wasn't going to be a problem, as both Kuroto and Shursui were hiding under Shursui's genjutsu, and considering how strong Shursui's genjutsu is, Kuroto doesn't believe that either of the two will be noticed. After taking their positions, Kuroto activated his Byakugan to observe the Amage Cure. He doesn't want to give out too strong chakra fluctuations, as that would be easily perceived by Konan, considering that he is a sensor class. Anyway, after observing a little, Kuroto soon found out that all the fights that were occurring were indeed occurring outside the village. Shursui was a little anxious. He really hopes that this raid could wipe out Akatsuki for good, but he is also worried that if the raid fails, then the village would most likely suffer serious loss. And for this reason, Kuroto could feel that Shursui's emotions are having some serious fluctuations. Shursui muttered, "It's already been a few minutes, how come either of the three units has yet to enter Amage Cure?" Kuroto, who was trying to locate some shinobi, answered for Shursui, probably because the elite members of Akatsuki are personally fighting against all the three units at the outskirts of Amage Cure. Shursui frowned, but their number is quite limited, they shouldn't have been able to hold off against all the fronts at the same time. Is Akatsuki also using the shinobi of Amage Cure? And are there any high-level shinobi in Amage Cure? Kuroto also feels that something is probably wrong here. As Shursui said, Akatsuki shouldn't have enough members to be able to completely stop all the battlefronts at the same time, unless Konan, Obito, and Pain Rikudo themselves also participate in the battle, which shouldn't have been the case, right? Just when Kuroto was wondering over these issues, he was finally able to see some chakra signatures entering his field of vision, and he notified Shursui, one side has finally entered Amage Cure. Based in the size of chakra and the direction from which they were entering, Kuroto would say that these assault troops are from Kumogakure. Shursui finally heaved a sigh, "At least, one side is here, we can finally start to act." Kuroto said, "But it is still too early to judge, only some members of a single unit have arrived, and we don't even know if there are other Akatsuki members still left who are not yet deployed." As soon as Kuroto's words fell, his speculation was soon fulfilled. The direction from where this Kumo unit was coming towards the Pain Tower, there were some successive blasts clearly indicating that another battle has started there. Looking at the flames and high rising smoke, as well as constant vibrations, Shursui asked, should we also make our move? Kuroto shook his head, until the leader of Akatsuki does not come forth, we are not going to act. No matter how upscale the battle goes or who all die here, Kuroto's mentality was not affected in the slightest, his objective is clear, and he knows what really has to be done. To deal with Akatsuki organization, it doesn't make much sense to waste your breath in dealing with the normal Akatsuki members. If Akatsuki has to be eliminated, then that can only be done by eliminating the two current core figures of the organization. One is Nagato, and the other is Obito. Eliminating Obito is very difficult even for Kuroto, because of Obito's Kamui and Izanagi. Therefore, there is only one way to severely injure Akatsuki organization, and that is to eliminate Nagato, and additionally destroy or seize the Rinnegan. This would temporarily put down Akatsuki's plans for good, and then you can take your time to figure out a method to seal Kurozetsu. Everything else is pointless. Although, Shursui nodded, it is still somewhat hard for him to accept this, but he did wait as Kuroto said. As the time passed seconds by seconds, the battlefield slowly shifted towards the center of Amigakure, and Kuroto was able to notice that the Kumo unit that has entered lacked a lot of its members. And what made Kuroto more puzzled is that the unit was not being led by the Reikage, rather it was being led by Killer Bee, who really sucks at teamwork. Well, this unit was now intercepted by the duo of Uchiha Shinichi and Biwa Juzo. But from what Kuroto can see, neither Uchiha Shinichi nor Biwa Juzo was fighting at their full strength, they were only suppressing the momentum and slowly guiding the unit led by Killer Bee closer and closer to the Pain Tower. Who could have stopped the Reikage? Muttered Kuroto in wonder, then thought, to stop Reikage, it can only be a speedster. Perhaps it was Hirako with Jin-tun. After reaching this conclusion, Kuroto diverted his thoughts. To be honest, he did not really care about what happened to the Reikage. Besides, with Reikage strength, killing him would not be easy even for someone like Hirako. So instead of wasting time worrying about Reikage, Kuroto focused on the surroundings, trying to locate the place where Nagato could be hidden. Whoosh! A few seconds later, another shadow appeared over the sky of Amigakure, wings spread wide open like an angel, overlooking the battle below with an indifferent expression. As soon as he saw her, Kuroto nodded to himself. Konan has finally appeared, which means that. Konan's appearance assured Kuroto that Pain Rikudo are also nearby, and Konan, who is hovering in the sky, has no intentions of intervening in the battle below. Her role must be observation. I think I will let him try to deal with her. Next, Kuroto shifted his eyesight from Konan to the buildings of Amigakure, trying to locate Pain Rikudo, and it didn't take him much longer to find a shinobi with orange hair tied up in a ponytail. He is. Instantly Kuroto recalled that this shinobi with orange hair tied in a ponytail is one of the Pain. This Pain did not notice Kuroto and Shursui. Instead, he pressed his hands on the ground violently. Poof! With a surge of white smoke, a three-headed dog with a black rod embedded on each of its heads appeared. The size of this three-headed was at least as large as several-story buildings. Summoning ability. This one is Chikashoto Pain, Animal Path. Muttered Kuroto. Now that Pain has appeared, Kuroto was a little nervous. The same nervousness and tension that Kuroto has not felt for quite some time. With the appearance of the three-headed dog, even Shursui noticed Chikashoto Pain, Animal Path, standing atop the Pain Tower, and he hurriedly said to Kuroto, Kuroto-san, look, the leader of Akatsuki organization has appeared. Yes. Kuroto nodded half-mindedly while he was busy with some other thoughts. Shouldn't we attack him? Shursui asked in a dumbfounded tone because of Kuroto's nonchalant response. However, Kuroto didn't seem to notice Shursui's nonchalant tone, but he did shake his head, denying Shursui's idea, not yet. Shursui was puzzled, what? But why not? The leader of Akatsuki has already appeared, if we wait any longer then everyone will be in danger. At this moment Kuroto recovered from his thoughts and said lightly, that one is just a puppet being controlled by the real leader of Akatsuki. Puppet? Shursui was baffled and said with an incredulous expression, but those eyes are the same one, it's that same ripple pattern as described by Shino. Kuroto nodded, yes, it is, but it is still a puppet. Wait a little longer and you will see more of such individuals, with the same ripple pattern in their eyes, all of them are puppets. Pain Rikudo are just being controlled by Nagato through chakra receivers. Therefore, it doesn't really make much sense to reveal himself to the enemy just to eliminate a few puppets. And the reason why Kuroto did not pass on the secret of Rikudo Pain to the village? Well, let's just say that it is because he doesn't want the element of surprise to go to waste. If there is already someone in the raid unit who knows the secret of Pain Rikudo, then Nagato will become more cautious. Besides, there is hardly anyone in the entire raid unit other than Kuroto who can defeat Nagato and his pain Rikudo, so there is no point in revealing that secret anyway. After being attacked, this splitting dog can keep splitting more heads, and each head can separate into individual dogs. Practically there are no suitable methods to take down this dog other than to defeat Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path. Next, one after another, a giant crab, a giant rhino, several giant centipedes, a giant bird beast, several chimera beasts, were also summoned by Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path. With the appearance of these summoned beasts, the situation of the battlefield soon became completely passive, and almost all the Kyumo shinobi that were following Killer Bee decided to stay behind and a clear path for Killer Bee, to make sure that Uchiha Shinichi and Biwa Juzo, as well as, these summoned beasts do not hinder Bisama's path. Is it just me or are they stopping everyone other than Killer Bee? Thought Kuroto with a frown. If Shinichi really wanted, he could have easily stopped Killer Bee, but he did not. Initially I assumed that it's probably because he has no intention, but now that I see those summoned beasts also specifically targeting everyone other than Killer Bee, it makes sense now. At the same time I understand why Killer Bee could make it up to here. It's because he is being led to the center of Amage Cure. Does that mean Nagato wants to capture Hachibi too? But isn't this too soon for Akatsuki organization to start capturing Bijou? Or has this also changed because of the butterfly effect? What am I even thinking? Of course, it has changed. Kuroto muttered while shaking his head. At this time, 4 more figures appeared in Kuroto's field of vision. These 4 figures were hiding in multiple places. One was Jiraiya hiding inside a toad. The toad was slowly approaching Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path. The other 2 were Kakashi and Guy, while the last one was a white snake. All 4 of them were obviously attracted by the battle taking place here. Orochimaru is already here. I just hope that he doesn't do anything unnecessary, Kuroto thought, then put attention on Jiraiya. Jiraiya's plan wasn't hard to figure out. When Jiraiya exhausts all his methods, he should be able to deal with the 3 weaker Pain, and with the assistance from Kakashi, perhaps 4 Pain? And combining them together with Killer Bee, the 4 of them together should be able to hold their own against Pain Rikudo for a little while at least. Now, if only I can locate the location where Nagato is hiding. With this intention, Kuroto focused on Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path, and tried to study the chakra pathway that should give him the right direction of the location from where Nagato is remotely controlling the puppet. While Kuroto tried to locate Nagato, Jiraiya on the other side also revealed himself. Ranjishigami no Jutsu. Jiraiya's white hair suddenly grew longer and harder as steel wires and tied Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path, in a close binding, restricting all of his movements. Jiraiya then jumped closer to Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path, intent on questioning the person. Boom. But before Jiraiya could land closer to Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path, suddenly an explosion occurred and he flew out from his position and landed on the road, although he managed to keep up his balance and thus did not incur any injury. When the smoke cleared, everyone could see 2 more shinobi other than Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path, each wearing the Akatsuki cloak. Both of them are fat, with one being bald and the other having orange hair similar to Chikishoto Pain, Animal Path. What's characteristic is that both of these also had the same eyes, with a ripple pattern which was none other than Rinnegan, and these 2 are Shurato Pain, Azura Path, and Gakido Pain, Preta Path, respectively. With the appearance of Shurato Pain and Gakido Pain, Kakashi and Guy also appeared next to Jiraiya by using Shunshin no Jutsu. Looking at the 3 Akatsuki members with the same ripple pattern eye standing at the top of the tower, Kakashi was shocked. What? How could all 3 of them have the Rinnegan? Jiraiya noticed the arrival of Kakashi and Guy next to him, but he was not in the right mindset to be able to respond to the arrival of the 2. Initially, Jiraiya could have believed that Chikishoto Pain might be Nagato. His appearance has changed a lot, but Jiraiya could never forget those ripple pattern eyes. However, with the simultaneous appearance of Shurato Pain and Gakido Pain, who also have the same ripple pattern eye, he was confused and at a complete loss of any understanding of what was going on any longer. Chikishoto Pain crouched down staring at Jiraiya with indifferent cold eyes, and slowly said, "Jiraiya-sensei, you shouldn't be here."